Mini Storage Messenger Self-Storage Webinar Series. I'm Poppy Behrens, co-publisher of Minico Publishing, and we're delighted to have you in the audience today. This is one of several informative webinars planned for self-storage owners, operators, managers, investors, developers, and other industry professionals. The sponsor of today's webinar is Baja Construction, based in Martinez, California. Our presenter is Baja CEO Bob Hayworth, whose construction background dates to his teenage years when he began building carports with his father each summer. Having built his first self-storage building in 1976, he has built millions of square feet of storage since. Baja's first RV and boat storage project was constructed in 1986. Since that time, Bob has been a driving force in establishing RV and boat storage as an acceptable alternative to self-storage. In 2007, Bob built his first solar carport. At that time, in 2007, carports amounted to 20% of Baja's business. Now, in 2008, and going forward for 2009, Bob is predicting that 40% of Baja's sales will be solar. Today, Baja and its 100 employees continue to lead their core business in carports, RV storage, and self-storage while continuing to drive innovation in solar support systems. This January will mark the 30th anniversary of Mini Storage Messenger, providing the self-storage industry with in-depth news and information. Each issue of Messenger offers cover stories and feature articles on the most timely industry topics and trends. Monthly columns contributed by industry experts and accomplished business professionals address a wide range of topics including security, facility operations, technology, legal issues, legislative updates, construction, and development. We also publish a variety of other self-storage data sources such as the ones you see listed. For more information, please visit ministoragemessenger.com. We invite you to submit questions throughout today's webinar. Simply type your question in the question area and click Send. Depending on the question, we will answer it either privately or to the entire group. We will try to answer as many questions as we can during the Q&A period at the end of the webinar. Those questions that cannot be answered due to time constraints will be answered by way of email after the webinar. This webinar is being recorded and will be available for viewing on demand from our archives at ministoragemessenger.com. Today's presentation should run about 45 minutes, with the remainder of the hour open to questions. And now I have the distinct pleasure of turning this presentation over to Bob. Good morning, Bob.
Good morning. Thank you very much. Okay, the presentation is on solar RV and boat covers, PC and profitable. If I can get the slides to move. There we go. A recap of RV and boat storage. The growing market, the number of recreational vehicles and boats is rising. Basically, since 1945, RV and boats have increased till today, where there's currently 9 million RVs on the road and 19 million boats. The storage alternatives for boats and RVs is shrinking. Fewer cities are allowing RV and boats to be parked on city streets. Most homes are now only 5-foot set side yards and 20-foot front yards, and the CC&Rs for most developments prohibit the parking of RVs and boats within the projects. RV and boat storage has become a valuable service because they also offer dump stations, RV washing, service, air, and propane at these different facilities. They're a good investment because they're cheaper to build than mini storage, and so you can usually build an RV and boat storage if you just build the covers for about $16 to $20 per square foot. If you can pick up the land for $2 a square foot and get $100 a month, which seems to be the national average for 11 by 30 space, it's a 40% return on your investment. not doing very well with the slides. RV and boat storage facility creep. Basically what you're doing is you're freeing up space that generally the RVs and boats take up on city streets and on your personal property. You're offering protection from crime and vandalism, protection from critters of all sorts, and protection from the elements. The three things you're really doing with RV and boat covers are a place to park them, a place that's secure, and protection from the elements. Your biggest enemy, of course, is the sun. The ultraviolet rays from the sun destroy the roofs of RVs and the passenger areas, which are the most expensive to maintain and protect. RV and boats are obviously sizable investments. They're anywhere from $50,000 to the Prevos are $2 million. And so you want to protect them both physically and from the elements. So how do we make our biggest enemy, the sun, a partner in our business? So here we have a simple structure. It's basically a tall carport that you'll put on a large piece of property. And on this piece of property, you generally speaking get 50% of the coverage. So you'll build an office. You might put in mini storage. You might put in climate-controlled mini storage, and so you have an economically viable business model, RV and boat storage. So how can we leverage this investment? Well, we can leverage the investment a little bit farther by putting solar as an integral part of your RV cover. And why do we want to make it an integral part of your RV cover? Because if you make it an integral part of your RV cover, then the whole structure, the solar support system, which is what we call it, instead of RV cover, qualifies for all the tax incentives and rebates that you get from the federal government and state and local governments, as well as incentives from the utility companies themselves. So here's a small definition of what qualifies for the federal tax incentives and rebates. And you need to, of course, contact your professional tax consultant. Okay, and again, here you go to the Solar Energy Industry Association, tax incentives for solar energy, and these will give you more definitions. But the bottom line is that if you remove the solar from the structure, from the RV cover, and it doesn't have a use, in other words, it doesn't supply power or doesn't supply shade, and so it's basically has no other use, then it qualifies as part of the solar system. Okay, the integrated solar cover is tax deductible. So if you add solar panels to the framing system, you have a tax deductible structure. It will provide shade for the RV boats in addition to being a tax deductible asset that otherwise would have been much more expensive. Now this is a project that we did in Vacaville, California, and this is with thin film. This is basically, which is a newer product. It's only been out for the last 5 to 10 years. And this is applied right over our corrugated roof deck, and it's actually it's a little more cost effective. In other words, it's cheaper, but the problem is it performs a little better in different applications. It does better under heat, and it's a little more resistant for damage. The problem with it is not as efficient. It's only half as efficient as crystalline panels. So integrated solar carports. By integrating a solar power system with RV and boat storage, you have turned the sun, normally an enemy in our industry, into an asset. Suitable, oops, I missed one. I got to go back one. Sorry. Suitable sites for solar are two factors, latitude and longitude. Where we are in the United States, you need a southern exposure. 30 to 40 degree pitch isn't necessarily a factor. We've done projects where they're actually level. It just depends on how much power you need and how much area you have. Most of the United States, anywhere in the United States, basically the 5 biggest states right now that have solar and have the biggest incentives are California, Nevada, Arizona, New Jersey, and Massachusetts. But the biggest solar producing power country in the world is Germany, and it's basically north of the entire United States. So being farther north really isn't an issue. Benefits of solar power and boat storage for investors are protect against rising utility rates. In places like California, you not only have to deal with oil and the lack of amount of energy for the increasing consumption, but in California, for example, they have peak usage charges. In other words, when everybody's using a lot of power in the middle of the day, during the summer, they actually, if you use too much energy for your air conditioning, then they actually will double your rates. In my area, it can go anywhere from 15 cents a kilowatt hour to 30 cents. So being that the solar panels are producing all its power in the middle of the day when the sun is at directly above you, and there's no clouds, it's the hottest time, then that you don't have any peak charges. Your peak charges are gone. And the other thing is cashing in on government rebates and tax credit. They just continue the rebates and tax credits for 8 years. They were going to expire December of this year, but they continued them for 8. So now is the time to put in alternative energy where you get the rebates, because after it becomes more efficient and the cost of solar goes down, you will not be able to get those rebates. They will discontinue them. And right now in California, for example, the rebates are going down every year. So right now you can get a 30% federal tax credit. You can depreciate the whole thing over 5 years, and you get another rebate from either your utility, your state, or your city. It just depends on where you are. And of course, green business is a huge advantage because it gives you a whole different identity. For example, when I first started doing carports, someone asked me what I do, and I say, well, I do carports. And they go, what? Well, now when they ask me, what do? I do solar support systems. They go, really? It's a whole different identity. All of a sudden, you're cool. No pun intended. So the tax benefits are you get a 30% federal tax credit. So what that means is if you owed $100,000 in federal tax this year and you put in a $300,000 system, then that whole $100,000 would go away, okay, because you get a 30% federal tax credit. And then after that, you get a 5-year accelerated depreciation. So the whole structure is basically the structure as well as the solar is paid for in 5 years. And then there's individual state tax credits and or rebates and utility company rebates that are on top of this. And then there's actually another benefit in that some areas of the country now are starting to pay retail rates for surplus power produced. Now, there's not very many, but it's starting to be a trend. Once that happens, then this will be another profit center for your RV and boat storage business. And then it's just going to boom. It's going to take off like wildfire because the federal government is basically paying for you to put in this structure and you'll get double income. You'll get double income from the rent below the RV cover and you'll get income from above it. Again, this is why I was saying that the solar support system is useless when you pull off the panels. This is a project we did in near Bakersfield. It's called Lost Hills. This is a 1 megawatt system. And as you can see, the panels are on the roofs yet. And this would be similar to an RV cover, except for this is shorter. But by removing the panels, there's basically no use to the structure. It doesn't perform any function whatsoever. And so you can say that the solar support system or RV cover is, once removing the panels, is useless. Did I click it too many times? Sorry. So wasted write-off. This is a canopy at a mini storage facility that if we had put solar on it, then, and we built this more than 5 years ago, that the whole canopy would be totally written off. It would, including the structure, if they'd put solar panels on it, all the power for this particular project from that day forward would have been free in essence, and all the income from these RV covers would be net, net, net. Okay. Other rebates and incentives. Net metering is the way most guys do it because they're not getting paid for surplus power. So what happens then is you design a system that only produces enough energy that at the end of the year your electric bill is zero because they don't pay you for any surplus power you produce. So the meter basically runs backwards during the day and forwards at night, with the net result at the end of the year being zero. Now the cash rebates vary from state to state, city to city, utility company to utility company. And it can be anywhere from nothing to $5 a watt. There are some areas in Colorado and Florida where they pay you $4.50 a watt, which means that you will get that whole system will pay for itself within the first year. You'll get half of the system paid for in a check when it starts producing energy. And then there's another advantage. The Energy Policy Act of 2005 states that if more than 50% of your power comes from alternative energy, you can deduct an additional $1.80 per square foot. Did I lose you guys? Oh, there we are. So the Solar Energy Industry Association If you go to this website, this will tell you what your different tax incentives are. Same site. This is and this is an outdated map, but this kind of just tells you where the states are that give you the most incentives. Right now, I think the states that give you the most incentives are California, New Jersey, Nevada, Arizona, Massachusetts. But I'll take you to another slide that you can find out everything everywhere. If you go to this website, www.desireusa.org, this is done by the University of North Carolina. It will tell you the tax incentives for the state and the cities and the utility companies for every area in the United States. So if you want to find out your particular incentives, go to this site and it will give you that information. And this is an example of Nevada, the incentives for Nevada. So more customers. RV and boat owners are older and more likely to have disposable income. RV and boat owners like the outdoors. They're probably more aware and concerned about the environment and conservation. This puts them in a green demographic. Having a solar investment as a part of your project will project an image of responsibility, sophistication, and you will be cool. Since the idea is new, the facility may get additional press coverage about its green aspects and therefore free advertising. According to a 2006 study by Yale University, 83% of Americans believe global warming is a serious problem. That figure is up from 70% in 2000. Your customer's decision on where to store their vehicle will likely be swayed by their perception of your business environmental responsibility. Oil and uranium versus PV panels are made from silicon, which is the second most common element on the Earth right after oxygen, with almost 26% of the Earth's crust made out of silicon. Unlike oil and uranium, it can't be depleted. As a result, PV solar has the potential to produce near free energy. While oil and uranium are being depleted, their prices will continue to rise. Feel good. Makes economic sense. Energy savings, independence, being able to budget energy. Projects a positive corporate image, gets more clients and publicity while you're helping the environment. Environmental concerns, global warming. Each year, a 5 kilowatt system eliminates approximately 14,753 pounds of CO2, 20.6 pounds of nitric oxide, 81.6 pounds of sulfates. Here's a sample of RV and boat covers with solar. So let's assume you had a 40 by 200 square foot RV cover, which is 8,000 square feet. So you'd put 80% of that on solar, which would be 6,400 square feet. 6,400 square feet equals 1 kilowatt, or 100 square feet equals 1 kilowatt of power. So you get 64 kilowatts power generating capacity. This would run 1,060 watt incandescent light bulbs, run 320 desktop computers plus monitors, or 30,000 square feet of air conditioning. Cost of installation of this size is about $7 a watt, or $448,000. This does not include the RV cover. 64 kilowatts, or 2,000 hours per year, equals 12,800 kilowatt hours generated yearly at 10 cents, which is just a rate, it varies all over the place, equals $12,800 of electricity saved yearly, or $1,066 monthly. Depending on the energy prices and demand, energy prices easily break 10 cents. Where I live, it's 15 cents and can peak to 30 cents. In California, 2001, energy prices reached 20 cents, which was about right. And it should go up depending upon oil. They're predicting at about 10% per year. Energy companies can bill for demand, which I was talking about earlier, which is the peak usage charge, for whatever the peak energy usage was in a month. A solar installation would spare you from this tactic, again, because you're producing your most power at the time you're using the most, and so you eliminate all your peak usage charges. So this would kind of give you an idea of what your rebates and your costs would be. So based on a 30 kW system, it would cost you $270,000. And this is just a random number, but let's just assume the rebate was $3 a watt. You'd get $90,000 back. Like I said, in some areas in Florida, that could be twice that amount. It could be, not twice, it would be $4.50 or $5 a watt, so that would be $150,000 instead of $90,000. So the cost after the rebate's $180, assuming that your rebate was $3 a watt. Your federal tax credit would be $81,000, so you can take that right off your federal taxes. And then the net cost before depreciation is $99,000, which you depreciate over 5 years. So basically the whole system would be paid for in 5 years, including your RV cover, but those costs are not in this example. Now this would give you a return on investment if, for example, you're a power purchase agreement company, and what they do is they would come in, build your whole system, including your RV covers, then they would give you a bill a month for whatever you paid the utility company plus so much for the RV covers. And at the end of 20 years, they would give it to you. Okay, this is solar with concealed fasteners. This is that 1 megawatt system we did again. So this is using a design span or clip rib roof like you would use in mini storage, and with the thin film solar panels between the corrugations. But you got to use a 17-inch panel or a 16-inch net panel to be able to use that, because the thin film comes in 16 inches wide. This is another project we did in Vacaville. This is the one with, we also did thin film. Basically building a standard, these were carports, and then they glued the thin film to the top of the carport. Steps to building a solar project. What you want to do is contact a company that will coordinate both solar panels and canopy installation like ourselves. Basically the way we operate is we have solar partners or solar integrators everywhere in the United States. And so if you come to us and say you want to put solar on your RVs, then we will go ahead and work with the solar integrator. We'll design a system that is the most effective for you at your particular location. Usually what's happened to this point is the solar integrator will take the whole contract and they will sub it back the canopies to us, and then we will do it supplied and installed for them, but you can also do it our portion direct with us and their portion direct with them. It's up to you. So, and again, a solar construction professional will visit your site and evaluate. Like I said, we have partners all over the United States. You'll receive a proposal usually from them, sign the contract, and start the project. Thanks for your time. Any questions?
Bob, we actually have quite a few questions that have come in throughout the course of the webinar, so I'll just start going through them. Are there any types of areas where solar power will not work?
Any types of area? Well, I mean, it won't work if it's shaded by anything. I mean, you have to have sun. Like I said, the biggest solar producer in the world is Germany, which is above most of the United States. I would say Alaska would probably not be a good choice, but every other state in the union would work. We're doing a lot of work. We're going to be doing a lot of work in Hawaii. We're going to be doing work in New Jersey, Massachusetts. So pretty much all the continental United States you could do, and Hawaii.
I do have someone that asked if you work in the New Orleans market.
Yeah, that would be no problem. We just have to take wind into consideration.
What kind of initial startup costs are involved?
Well, I mean, it depends on how you do it. Most guys are doing it out of funding, their own funding, and so you usually have to. Most solar guys would want an initial deposit. I don't think it's very much, and then pay as you go like a normal contract. But I mean, as far as getting an estimate, there is no. As far as I know, no one charges for that at this point.
How do I find out what rebates and incentives are available?
You need to go to that I don't know. Can I go back in the slides? If they go back to that desire, let's see. How do I go backwards? One of the slides back there is. Do you have control of the slides? Yeah, go back to. Keep going. One more. There you go. This is the website that you go to this website and it will give you all the incentives and rebates nationwide for your particular
area. Do you know of anyone who does solar panels for RV storage outside of the United States, in particular Mexico?
We can help them with that. We haven't done anything in Mexico yet, but we do have solar partners that have done work in Mexico.
How long does it take to install solar panels at an RV facility?
They're actually getting pretty good. We're working with a company in San Diego. We just did a project that's 185,000 square feet RV cover, and we had a time limit. We built our portion in 3 months, and their portion will be done in 4. So it's pretty quick. They've gotten it where they're pretty efficient.
How often?
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'll let you.
They're basically prefabbing the solar installation now in a lot of cases, where they'll actually make them in racks, and so they just crane them on there. They're done in weeks instead of months.
Okay. I've had several people ask, how often do you have to clean solar panels?
It should be at least every 6 months. And they're actually coming up with now, they've come up with systems to automatically clean them. They're kind of like sprinkler systems for lawns.
Okay. Other than these cleaning systems, what is the typical method of cleaning that you would recommend?
Just like you clean a window. Most guys, they don't usually get on them. They clean them from the edges, and it's like washing a window basically. Because most of the installations, I didn't have any pictures here, but I can send whoever wants them pictures of crystalline. Most guys are using the crystalline modules, which is just glass. So you just have to clean glass.
I have someone that says, I'm currently building a project with clip rib. Is that useful with the thin film?
Yeah, but you got to make sure that your valleys are at least 16 inches to install the clip rib with.
Okay.
Because the unisolar panel, which is the majority of the thin film product, is 16 inches wide.
What is the life expectancy of solar panels?
Most of them are guaranteed from 20 to 25 years. And the crystalline's been around for 20 years, so everybody knows that works because it's already been around for 20 years. So the thin film is also guaranteed for 20 to 25 years, but it's only been around for 5. So they're guaranteeing it for 20, but no one knows how long it's going to be good for.
Okay. How do solar panels typically stand up to the weather, especially hail and wind?
They do really well. They have impact tests and all kinds of stuff. It takes a lot to break a crystalline panel, and the thin film, there's really almost nothing you can do to it.
Okay. What newer types of panels are being used? I've heard that unisolar is a good panel.
Unisolar is a good panel. I mean, they're coming up with all kinds of crazy things. I just went to a plant in China, and they're actually coming up with a crystalline panel, because everything, the solar is basically silicone. So, but they have liquid silicone between the 2 crystalline panels, and it actually moves within the panel. It's pretty cool. And then they're also putting it on the edges of panels rather than on the face. There's all kinds of things going on. It's going to get really inventive, and it's going to change a lot in the next 5 to 10 years. The problem is the incentives are going to be gone in 8. So you need to have the federal government pay for it. You need to move on it now before the incentives go away.
Right. How does wind affect solar panels?
I mean, it's our structures and the solar panels are designed for whatever the wind loads are, so it doesn't really affect at all. The only thing it's going to affect is the degree of pitch. I mean, in some areas of the country, you're not going to be able to get a really big degree of pitch for your solar panels just because the wind load will be such that it'll make your structure too expensive. But for example, in Florida, you need less of a pitch because it's closer to the equator, so you don't need a 30-degree pitch in Florida. All you need is a 10-degree pitch. Where the farther you get from the equator, then the more you need pitch. So the answer to that is it doesn't really affect it. We can do it. Don't worry about it.
Okay. How does the system work in the Midwestern area where snow conditions are present in the winter?
It's not a problem. Snow's not a problem. I mean, Germany is pretty much snow all winter, every year, and they're the biggest solar producer.
Okay. Can solar power be sold to the local power company?
In some areas it can. In Georgia, for example, they're buying back power, and that's when it becomes really fun, because then it becomes another profit center. So you'll be making money from your RVs, and you'll make additional income that you really didn't have to pay anything more for from your power. And that's Georgia. Texas, I believe, has to buy back surplus power. The problem with Texas is most of the power is fairly inexpensive. Florida, in some places, they buy back power some areas of Colorado. But if you go to that Desire USA, it'll tell you a lot. And if nothing else, I can hook whoever up with the local solar integrator, and they can answer their questions.
Okay. What happens when snow accumulates on the panels?
Well, what you do is in those areas where there's snow, you put them at a fairly good pitch. And usually in those areas are farther away from the equator, so they're probably at 30 degrees. And so the snow should come off the roofs just like it would any other roof.
And you may have answered this to some degree, but here's another one. When the solar installation is generating more power than a site is using, will the owner need to sign a power purchase agreement with the utility company to sell back the excess?
If he can, that's a good thing. Most utility companies are kind of reluctant to do that, but I mean, that would be a good idea, obviously. But most of the time, most of the systems that they're putting in now are just net metering, which is they only produce enough power to support the facility because the utility company is not willing to pay for surplus power.
Okay. Let's see. What percentage of your electrical usage should you plan to produce with solar power?
Well, I would say all of it. Everything that what you want to do, I mean, the best position to be in is a position where for anyone who has a large tax opportunity, let's say, and has a large energy need, it's a no-brainer because basically the federal government is going to be paying for your solar generating system, including your RV cover. And so you design the whole thing so that it's zero electricity at the end of the year. So you basically get rid of all of your power needs. You get that system for free in 5 years, and you're not paying any taxes. I mean, what more can you ask for? And then, of course, the best thing, even one step beyond that, is when they start paying for surplus power and it becomes another profit center. I mean, then you're doubling your income on that structure that's paid for in 5 years.
Okay. What is the initial startup cost for solar?
What is it? It's pretty expensive stuff. It's for example, a normal carport is 162 square feet, and these are carports. And carport, not an RV cover. Carports are usually out of the $10,000 per space it costs to put in the solar. Only 1,000 of that was the carport cost. So it usually costs about anywhere from $7 to $10 a watt. So it's fairly expensive. It's, you know, probably on an RV cover it's going to cost you at least, I think it's at least double what your RV's going to, what your normal RV cover would cost you. So it's fairly expensive.
Okay.
But on the other hand, if it's paid for by tax dollars and rebates in 5 years, it's just more money you have to borrow is all. And interest itself is subject to the incentives. And in California, it's exempt from property tax. So if you went and put in RV covers with solar on them after your project's built, your property tax doesn't go up at all.
Okay. Is traditional self-storage suitable for solar panels?
Yes. The only thing is they can't write off the buildings. And they have to be careful of how it's installed so that they don't have roof issues. Because The biggest problem with putting them on mini storage is, unless the solar integrator knows what he's doing, you could have leaks. And leaks, as we know, in mini storage is death. That's really bad.
Okay.
So,
Will the government pay for solar systems if they are used partially on a self-storage building equally with an RV roof?
I don't understand the question.
In other words, if you're using solar panels and part of it is on the traditional storage facility and part is on the RV and boat, will they pay for it, or will they only pay for the portion on the RV?
Well, they'll pay for all the solar part. They just won't give the tax incentive for, you won't be able to write off the mini storage structure. You'll be able to write off the RV cover because it's an integral part of the roof. But if you remove the solar from the mini storage, you still have the mini storage, and so you won't get any of the tax incentives from the mini storage structure itself.
Okay. What is the estimate on cost per foot for solar?
Cost per foot. Well, it's cost per foot. It's about, like I said, it's about $10 per foot, more or less.
Okay. Let's see. What is the average payback time for solar?
Well, if you have the tax appetite, if you have the tax situation, you can pay it back anywhere from 1 year to 6 years. If you don't have the tax appetite, then you're looking at a longer payout.
Okay.
But if you have a tax problem, you need to do it. If you don't have a tax problem, then again, you're going to have a problem with it because it is so expensive. But
okay. Can an existing RV and boat facility be retrofitted for solar panels, and if so, how difficult is it?
it's not that difficult. It's really, if you use thin film, you can glue, depending upon what roof panel you used. If you used, like, for example, if we did it, all our panels would be conducive for thin film very easily. If you want to put crystalline on it, which weighs a little more, it's about 3 pounds a square foot, then we would probably have to retrofit the structure to support the additional weight. The thin film would be no problem.
Okay. Let's see, I had someone that actually sent in a comment that Austin buys excess solar energy.
Oh, perfect. Well, then yeah, that's good.
Okay, let's see. Is it more cost-effective to build solar covers when an RV facility is being built, or is the cost comparable for retrofitting?
Well, see, the problem is if you retrofit, you can't take the tax incentives on the structure. If it's new construction, because then you're calling it a solar support system instead of an RV cover, then you can take the tax incentives on the structure and you can get the structure basically paid for in 5 years. So it's better to do it with new construction as opposed to retrofit. So if you had a choice between doing it new or doing it retrofit, I would do new because you're going to get the structures for free.
Okay. We're getting creative here now on questions. I have someone who asks, can you build the roof with solar first and then add the storage component later so that you can get the rebate?
Yeah, you could do that. You could basically put up RV covers and then come back and enclose it and turn it into mini storage. You'd probably want to wait the first 5 years, though. Because, I mean, it's just, these are kind of like IRS questions, and so you really need you need to talk to your tax consultant on how far you want to push it.
Okay. Are there any self-storage metal building companies that are integrating solar into their building designs?
I'm not aware of that at this point.
Do you use SunPower's systems, and how do they price relative to thin film?
Well, SunPower is the most efficient panel out there, and it's more costly because it is a very efficient panel. It kind of depends, and that's where you need your solar integrator to get involved, is how expensive your system is or how efficient you need it to be is directly relative to the amount of area you have. If you have a lot of area, like if you have RV covers, you don't need the most efficient system out there unless you're producing power that somebody's willing to buy. So if you're just doing it to meet your particular power needs, you don't need the most efficient system. If you're building a system to basically sell power, then you need the most efficient system. So, I mean, SunPower makes the best panel out there, the most efficient panel, but they're, it is costly, and if you have a lot of square footage, you don't really need it.
Okay. Do solar panels emit heat?
They do generate some heat, but the way most guys do it is you got two ways of doing it or three actually, but the way we do it is, one of the ways we do it is you can put the solar panels only on our framing with no roof deck, and that way there is no heat problem. Or if you put it on our roof deck, you want to basically raise it slightly so that there's an airflow underneath, and they do that usually with standoffs or hat channels. And then if you use thin film, basically it becomes a part of the roof, and so then there's really no heat problems. So there's different ways to do it, but they do give off heat. But there are ways to do it to take care of that issue.
Okay. How is solar power stored, and how much space would be needed for the indoor equipment?
Most people don't store any power. Most of the systems, or practically all the systems we're doing, just go back into the grid. So, what you're doing is you're giving power back to the utility company, and then they offset it with their power. That's why I was saying you do the zero net metering, so that you produce enough power at the end of the year, it's zero. The battery thing is a whole different deal. At this particular point, I wouldn't do that because you have a whole bunch of issues with batteries. It's pretty costly, and you need a place for them, and they emit toxic gases, and it's a whole other issue. We've never done one where they've stored the power themselves. I'm sure they can do it, but again, it's something you don't really need to do unless you were in an area where you had a lot of blackouts or something.
Okay. Here in Texas, we have a lot of hail. How tough are the panels? If they're damaged, can they be repaired, or do they have to be replaced?
No, they can't be repaired. They'd have to be replaced. And generally speaking, they're really strong panels. I mean, I don't think hail would damage them, but somebody, if they threw a rock at them, probably would. But you just replace the panel. So.
Okay. What monitoring system do you recommend to follow production and show rental customers that you have electricity generating?
Most solar installations include a monitoring system, and so all you have to, it's really simple. You just you'll see how many kilowatts are being generated at any one time, and so you can make that a part of your package when you buy that from the solar integrator. And you just, they just have a little door and a little window, and you pop it up and you can see it anytime you want. Your customers can too.
Okay, I think that just about covers the questions for today. We'd like to thank everyone for attending the webinar, and we hope that we provided you with some useful information that will assist you with your investment and solar panel development. If you'd like more information on Baja Construction, please call 800-366-9600. And Rebecca, can you go back to the screen that has Bob's contact information? I've had a couple of people ask for that. We'd like to let you know that this webinar will be archived on our website if you'd like to view it again. And within the next few days, you will be receiving an email with the link to that presentation, along with a special offer for our RV and boat developers resource kit. So please make sure you watch your inbox for this email. Thank you again for attending, and have a wonderful rest of the day.
Thank you.